I wasn't actually going to speak or say anything. I'm not really a political person. I get in trouble a lot, though. But, just a couple of. I think it's great that there's so many people here. I go to a lot of these things and stuff, and I am a social worker, and I'm much more than that. But the one thing I've noticed with this topic, it's like you're either with us or you're against us. And I think sometimes in a lot of these discussions we forget. Like I'm employed by someone, but I actually work for the homeless. And I see a lot of faces around here that I have worked with and stuff like that are up at 3 o'clock in the morning at the cold weather shelter and helping do the point in time count, things like that. So I think that it's open to dialogue, and I appreciate that because I think that actually I think Judge Schumann and everybody opened my eyes too a few years ago. At least this is being talked. Just real quick, and I'll leave it. I'm a highly decorated combat wounded veteran. 14 months later, spent my first night in the woods. I lived on the streets for 14 years. I'm an active drug addict and drunk, liar, cheat, manipulator, been in prison, out of prison, in bars, behind bars. Was probably the lowest of the low you ever found. And it actually took one of these crazy social work case managers that pulled me out of it. And that was in October of 2007. Now I had VA benefits and everything. You can thank her. So, and I had the, honor for serving our country and everything. So I did have the VA benefits and things, and I had to go to rehab, all that stuff. I will say this, and I'm not for or against anything. That this gentleman here, I would have never went to a shelter like this. That's just me. Not that it's not a good thing, not that when you had asked earlier, about my personality wouldn't have allowed me to go there. Because of many of the same things you had discussed earlier with them. I didn't like crowds, I didn't want to be somewhere, I didn't want to be seen, but I wanted to be valued. And I think that's something I've been missing for 5 years. Well, since that time that I came here to Volusia, got straight, decided, what am I going to do? I was at a homeless transitional housing thing and all. And they had this program called HUD-VASH, which was through the VA. And it's basically a Section 8 voucher. The VA's your co-signer. They provide case management. It's a housing first thing. I became actually the very first recipient of a HUD-VASH voucher in Central Florida. And that was in 2008. I'm like the guinea pig, so I was always worried I was going to mess it up. And I'm not saying this to, look at me or whatever. I'm just saying that person you see on the street and that drug addict and that drunk and that criminal, has the potential to be me. Sorry, I got a little emotional. In 5.5 years, I've gotten 3 college degrees, including my master's of social work. I am now the program director of one of our social service agencies for the Supportive Services for Veterans and Families program. And I am in charge of $1.4 million every year to house homeless veterans. 8 years ago, you wouldn't have let me near your kid's piggy bank. So to say that I do know about Housing First, and I do know what worked for me, not that anything else is not working, but I just know for me, because it took a case manager, it took somebody. Now it doesn't work, as you say, without what they say intensive case management, but anybody can be a case manager, And what I do in my program, and we're out of Daytona, in a former life I was in charge of the point in time count, so I understand the difficulties with coming with a number and all. But what I did was we have to find the people and we have to know their name. So I took the point in time surveys. I took HMIS data for 3 years, 4 years. I have outreach staff that goes out every day. I house people every day, house 2 people today. And what we do is being able to know them and value them and see them for what they are. Now, yes, I do have the benefit of been there, done that, empathy and everything else like that. And I just hope that if a structure like this does come to fruition, and like I say, anything that helps the homeless get off the street, I'm all for. But I think that it has to be, we say holistic and everything like that. I know for me, I have people, I have an employment person, I have an education person, I have a person that helps you with your Social Security disability, I have a person that will help get you in school if you need it. I hire these people because it takes the village, it takes the community, and I have the ability to do that with $1.4 million. Now, a lot of grants a lot of things like that, they have limitations. I don't believe in limitations. I do have a program in Volusia County that is a wet program. I have no barriers. You can be a drug addict, a drunk, you can be using, you can be prostituting yourself, you can be whatever you want to be. I've helped sex offenders. I've helped people with felonies and evictions and everything like that. Because too many programs, too many people find a way to say no. That's where they start. Find a way to say yes with this. Find a way to say yes and then figure out how to mold it to the best program you can possibly have. And so that's what we do. I house a cat. I get him off the street and I say, hey, Mr. Ortiz, would you mind hanging out with my outreach guy? He doesn't have anybody. He's going out to the woods today. Can you go out with him? And you know what happens? They start following that new guy. And he goes, you know, I just did that paperwork. I just went here. I just did that. And all of a sudden, I literally have 104 Golden Battle Buddies right now that help the next guy to go out with us, to do stuff like that. And they help them because without that day-to-day interaction, you know, I can give you keys you can legally open something to. That values them. They get 8 hours sleep a night. They're not getting open containers. They're not getting trespassing. Their name's on the lease. They signed a legal document that wasn't in front of a judge. They love it. They become a new person. But by helping that next person, they help each other. They do like that. And that's when I hope something like this, you know, even if you're for or against or not like that, I can just say for what worked for me and what my program does. And we do take, and I'm talking to 2 cats right now that live 2 miles down the road. This guy, everybody, if I said his name, half the people go, oh my gosh, I used to see him. He's all cleaned up. He's walking to meetings. He's taking his buddies to meetings. They're being sober. They got jobs. He started a business, and he's been housed for a month and a half. And he's cutting lawns. And it works. And I hope that when we talk about case management, we don't just say that person. We don't just say, oh, well, it's a case. It's not a case. It's a human being, as this gentleman said here. And my only 2 questions with that is again, knowing the case management, knowing what we can do, knowing that each and every day that person, everybody in here has the potential to be Dr. Baxter, who's the one that pulled me out. She wasn't a doctor, that's what I just called her. You know, and every homeless person has the potential to be me. And it doesn't take, you know, a whole bunch of money. It doesn't take a huge building. It doesn't take all that. Not that those things are bad. It takes one person to talk to someone and not about someone. And my only thing with the case manager was, what do you think is a good caseload, you know, for a case manager to be effective? I've had to take the peripheral stuff off of my staff just so they could be case manager. We celebrate, we get a guy a new place, we all come together and we clean his apartment with him, just to see can he clean. I got a lady that comes in the same day, we bake cookies. And people think we're nuts, walking around like, what are you people doing? Because it's a home and it's valued. Nothing says home like cookies. And we can see that person. And so with the case managers, like I say, I've taken all that so that I have as much face-to-face time with my staff. So with a situation like this, what do you think is an effective caseload for these folks? 225, or is it 10 people, you know, like that. And with Mr. Apgar's, I voted for you, but Mr. App, and I work for them. But to his point, as far as the buy-in, and I don't know if it's set in stone, Deltona said we ain't paying. So how are we doing the buy-in with the cities? If Deltona said no, and I know the fun with the. I've been down to Miami. I know what they do wonderful work down there with this food and beverage thing. You know, it's the only place in the country that hasn't been able to get that passed. So, you know, it's a long road, and I hope that together we can all work together. You know, we got 40 people in here. You know, go and talk to one homeless person, and you can sponsor them. You don't have to pay me. Just how you doing, Harry? How you doing, Joe? And one by one, with all our faith, with all our community. And you know what? We could do our best to solve this. I hope the tax, and like I said, I'm not against this at all. I just hope that we don't just say words, we actually invest in the human capital that this person said. So thank you.
So let me tell you, first off, thank you for your service. And to go through your story really highlights the fact that when you look at, you know, in Pinellas, we have about a 91% penetration. San Antonio is about 85%. The bridge in Dallas is low 80s. And so not everybody will come into this facility. I want to always be very careful. Don't do George Bush and get on the Air Force carrier and say, you know, declare victory. That's, you know, we're going to get 100%. We're going to have 100% recovery. It's going to happen in 28 days. That's not going to happen. that we're dealing with humans, and so there's human capital, and so it's not just like in most of our lives, human life is, it's not very clean and compartmentalized and very structured. It's just different. Now, in terms of the caseload, the answer will depend on, is everybody getting the same type of caseload, or are they getting different subgroup, is one question. And then the second is also, do they carry a person post-graduation? Because we like to follow people 1 year out. St. Louis taught us a lot about that. St. Patrick's Center really got into, if you really want long-term recovery, you want to go 1 year out. So that way, when they get that bump, when they get that first challenge, when they get that first problem, you help them right then and there so you don't restart the cycle. So that would be the next question, sort of what the subgroup is, and do you have the whole continuum, or are you taking everybody at an emergency level? So rule of thumb, what we like to do is under 20 to 1 with family and children, if you're doing the whole spectrum. In other words, you might be working 4 or 5 families, very intensive every day. You might be working 4 or 5 families for a once a week maybe, and then another one might be once a month. If you do that sort of mix, then you can go to about 20 to 1 on family, and you can go to about 30 and 1 on adult. In Pinellas, we have 11 caseworkers divided by an average population of 380 a night, to give you an idea. And I always ask for more case managers. You can't get that ratio low enough. The lower the ratio, the more success you're going